Welcome to the Riding in the Weeds podcast, where we tackle life's inevitable challenges, from navigating mountain bike trails to overcoming business hurdles and forging deeper connections with pets and people. It's easy to find yourself tangled in the weeds, but we're here to help with insights and strategies that'll get you out of the weeds. Our goal is to boost your performance in both sports and everyday life by sharing essential skills that we've learnt along the way. Through tales of our entrepreneurship journey, thrilling biking adventures, and fostering meaningful relationships, your hosts, Natasha, Lockey, and Ginny, Branden, will guide you on a journey that's not only enjoyable, but also inspiring. Join us to gain confidence that you need to navigate the trails of life. Welcome back to episode 45 of Riding in the Weeds. Today, we are going to talk about holding space. This is kind of a catchy phrase word that's being thrown around a lot in our society these days. So we're going to dig into what it is and what it isn't, and how we can hold space for ourselves, how we can hold space for other people, and why it's important to be able to hold space effectively. And I think, just to wind my little intro up here, when you can hold space for yourself, when you get stuck riding in the weeds, it becomes a lot easier to take note, see how deep they are, see how much mud there is, and figure out a really effective path back out without the guilt, without the shame, without all of that stuff that we get stuck into, which really just bogs us down further. So with that in mind, let's get started. Holding space. Ginny, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right, Tosh. How are you?
I'm doing good. Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful day.
Always a beautiful day in paradise, right?
Always a beautiful day in paradise. Always holding space for the beautiful day. It's going to change, but yeah, that's where we're at. So tell me, Ginny, what is the definition of holding space? What is it? And what isn't it? And how do we get this wrong? Let's start there.
Yeah, those are good questions. And I think frequently we do get it wrong. Not out of malice or ill will. We just don't have any better tools. So for me, holding space is being able to show up for someone or myself. That would also include our pets, or even just a situation, without judgment, and being fully present in that situation, regardless of whatever it is that's going on. So that can be a challenging time, that can be a not challenging time, that can be a happy time, but it may be stressful for some reasons. What it isn't is probably a lot easier for people to recognize, because frequently we experience it. I know I've been on the receiving end of people not really effectively holding space for me a lot in my lifetime, and I'm pretty sure most other people have. One of the easy examples that is fairly common, unfortunately, is dealing with family members. And as I mentioned, this is frequently not out of malice, it's out of love. But oftentimes someone will want us to do a certain thing, or want us to behave a certain way, or have an idea about what we should do. There's that S word that we've talked about before. And when that happens, that prevents us from being able to explore possibilities and to do what is really best for us, that we know is best on the inside. And so often we end up doing these sorts of things, again, not out of ill will. It's out of love and it's out of care for the other person, but we really don't know better for anyone else. The only person we know best for is ourselves. And I think this can be especially hard with children. It can be especially challenging with our pets, because sometimes their behavior is not exactly what we want it to be, and that can be stressful for us. I know that's the pattern that I have noticed, is that most often when someone is not holding space, it's because frequently they are uncomfortable in that situation. So if the dog is barking excessively and it stresses you out, are you able to hold space from that non-judgmental place? I've seen this happen online with people who have been sick or have a chronic illness or cancer or some kind of something, how often do you look at the comment string and see somebody saying, have you tried? You should do this. You should eat this diet. You should go to this place and practice this thing. And it's because a lot of times they're uncomfortable with the idea that that person is sick or that person is experiencing struggle. So it often comes from a place of love, but it's a little misguided.
Yeah. I think a post on Facebook's a good one because there's two ways that it can be. The person might say, hey, I'm looking for advice with this issue I'm having. Does anyone know of a way I could move through it? Have at her. Give them all the advice that they want. The other one is, I'm really struggling with this and it's been affecting me and I'm just having a hard time right now. The comment to that is, hey, sending love, big hugs. I'm here for you if you need anything. That is a really good way to see the difference. And just with your family example there, I think where you're going with that as well is that if you've got an idea, you want to start a new business, your entrepreneurial spirit has been ignited and you're ready to go and do something, you don't go, hey, mom, I'm going to quit my job and become a life coach. Because your mom is going to tell you, most likely, that's a terrible idea.
All the ways it won't work.
All the ways it won't work. And it's not because they don't believe in you. It's because they're terrified that it's going to go wrong and you're going to get hurt. And they don't want to see you get hurt. And it's, as you say, it's absolutely out of love. I found it fascinating when we decided that we were going to pack everything up and move to Mexico. And I have two parents, obviously. My mom is the practical-minded, step-by-step. She's from Saskatchewan. She is so very... She's kind of passive in a way. She is not an emotional person. And then my dad is like, anything's possible. He builds castles out of sand. You know, just go out and make it happen. And so what I'm expecting is my mom to be like, are you kidding me? Have you thought this through? How is this going to work? And my dad is going to be like, wow, that's awesome. Have so much fun. Well, in reality, the exact opposite happened. And I knew that I was making the right decision when my mom was like, I think that's a great idea. And I've had one other time in my life when I decided to quit my job. And I was actually working for her old boss and she'd helped me get this job. And I said to her, I was like, oh yeah, I'm quitting the job. And she was like, oh, it's about time. Her and my husband had actually been talking about how it was time. The job was done. It was time for me to move on. Moving on was going from a 9-to-5 job, which had a career path, to working part-time at the local golf course serving beer. And my mom was like, that is what you need to do. I totally agree. So when I get that response from my mom, I'm like, clearly it's the right thing to do. My dad, on the other hand, was like, oh, Tash, no, moving to Mexico. Have you thought this through? I don't think that's going to work. You can't leave your business in the hands of other people. And I was absolutely gobsmacked. I'm like, Ian, you won't believe what my dad said. And we were so confused because it was the absolute opposite of what I had expected. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Generally, if you look at the responses, when we go out on left field and we're going to go and do something, you find your people that are also in left field and you go tell them what you're going to do and they're there to support you. Anybody who is living a regimented life, if you're going to go out on left field, you don't talk to them until after you've gone left field because they're probably not going to even know how to hold space for your wackadoodleness unless they're quite used to you being wackadoodle, which fortunately, depending on how many times you throw curveballs, your friends probably are used to it. So where I want to go next is, tell me, Ginny, when you are working with people and their animals, how do you hold space for, I mean, really it's for the people, but you're talking to these animals. So what does that look like for you?
Yeah, and I think that's what's so cool about what I do is that the animals are the ones that do this amazingly well. I don't ever have to worry about it from the animals because they are always holding space in such a beautiful way for exactly what is in the moment. Rescues are a great example of this. You can have an animal that went through a really traumatic situation that can heal and can come back from that situation and have amazing relationships with people, again, despite whatever trauma they went through, because they're able to hold that space of possibility. And when you're depressed or when you're struggling with anxiety or things like that, frequently our animals will still hold space for us, even though we may not be feeling well. And they always seem to know how to be present with us in that non-judgmental way. So they're a beautiful example. If you're ever wondering how to hold space, go to your pet, go connect with your pet, because they're going to be able to share that with you in such an easy way that's just completely natural. And that is our natural state. I believe that is our natural state. But we have so much conditioning that comes in from our culture and our society that we forget how to do it. And I know there have been people I've met that I can immediately tell you are very good at it, because I want to be around them. I want to gravitate to those people. I want to spend time with them, because it's almost a relief to be with them, because there is no judgment. And they're just present with whatever is. And they're the kind of people that I do whatever I can to go spend more time with, because I value being around them, because I'm hoping it'll rub off a little bit or something, which it does. It really does when you spend time with people like that and with the animals like that. That's one of the biggest benefits of being around pets, because they're going to share that with you just because. Whether you like it or not, that's what you get. And all I have to do is follow their lead when I work with them, is just be in that space and just connect in with the universal energy, with the energy of the space, and with their energy. And that's all it is. It's not complicated. But we have to be willing to allow whatever is going to happen. One of my favorite examples is the mama bird cannot flap the baby bird's wings. If you've ever watched birds when the babies are starting to fledge, it can look pretty cruel, because frequently the nest gets too small and the baby birds don't fit in it anymore. And so they have to go somewhere, and they start exploring out of the nest. And frequently that means they fall. Working in barns all the time, we have barn swallows, and they are so much fun to watch because they're amazing flyers. They catch bugs, that's their thing. So they're incredible flyers. And they have multiple clutches in a year, and they have a lot of eggs. So the babies just don't fit in the nest anymore, and they end up falling out into the barn. And watching the parents care for them, all they do is continually bring them food. Other than that, the babies figure it out. The parents don't have flapping lessons or anything. They just allow the babies to figure it out. And that is the real definition of holding space for someone, is allowing them to be in struggle without judging their struggle and without having an emotional response to their struggle. You can feel empathy with someone, with another animal, with another being, with another person, but that doesn't mean that you're judging it, and that doesn't mean you're trying to take their struggle away. Every person, every being has to be able to go through their own process, and you can't do it for them. This is where I think we get tangled up with our children and our partners a lot of times, is because we don't want them to struggle. That's natural, but we can't take that away from them. And they've got to be able to make their own decisions for themselves about what's best. And sometimes that may mean we have to watch them struggle longer, but we can't fix it. We cannot flap their wings for them.
Yeah, and I think just letting people know in that space that you're there for them when they need you. It's very interesting, because when I teach people how to mountain bike, I've been in so many situations. I've got a group of beginners, and I've taught them the skills, and then we go on a bike ride, and I have this tendency to want to stop at every route or every feature or every rock and warn them of it so that they won't hurt themselves, because they're beginners and I don't want them to have any negative experience that might mean that they don't come back, because it means so much to me that they have a positive experience and they come back. And then I'll have a group of people that are wanting to move into being more advanced, and I'll actually do the opposite, where I will push them to the point where they may not have a positive experience, but they're going to come back because it's pushed them to a point where they have to flap their wings, and knowing which situation is which, but then also being able to hold space and know that those beginners know what they're doing. I've taught them how to balance. I've taught them how to use their brakes. I've taught them how to look ahead. And now I have to trust that they can do that. And the same thing with the advanced people. But where you are in your journey, you're generally going to fall and you're going to fail. The harder you push, like, the bigger the fall. But sometimes we have to take the gate away. We have to take the fences away, and we have to allow people to fall. And hopefully it's a soft landing. Airbags are amazing. And as a coach, one of my faults is that I do want to flap their wings for them. I don't want people to have a negative experience because I really want them to come back. I recently had an experience with a coach, and I think just while you were talking, Ginny, I was like, that's exactly what she wasn't doing. She wasn't holding space for my experience and then helping me look at strategies to move away from that experience. Instead, I felt like I was being put in a defensive situation. And so I regressed to telling my stories, to making excuses, to stumbling. And it was a very ineffective coaching session, and I left not feeling good about it. And I think we were actually talking about this before we started recording. And what you were just talking about, that was 100% it. She wasn't holding space for my experience. And because she didn't hold space for my experience, there was no context for us to move into a different space. And I think that's a lot of what we're doing. When I have a mountain biker, I need to look at where they are. It is such a mental game. If this person has had any sort of trauma on their bike at all, or even in their life, I need to understand where the stopping is coming from. In the previous episode, I was talking about the frozen ankle. That person is unable to drop their ankle anymore. So therefore, I need to hold space for what they can do and then create strategies that we can work with so that they can do the best that they can. My husband, on the other hand, he doesn't actually have anything to keep his ankles up. So his ankles are so ridiculously dropped that nobody could actually achieve that. And I see how well that works, and I try and replicate it, but I have these things called calf muscles that get in the way. And it's holding space for myself to be like, I can't actually do that movement because I'm not partially disabled.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we're able to be in that space of possibility with someone, regardless of their struggle or their experience, it frees them up to be able to be successful in the best way possible for themselves. And I think if every person that's listening, if you stop and think about the times where you felt supported versus the times where you didn't, you know, like in your coaching example, she was not effectively supporting you in that moment versus a time where you felt truly supported by someone, it's pretty clear the difference. And what's interesting is that often the person that's the most supportive may be giving you the least amount of advice, quote unquote, or strategy, because they're allowing you to find it on your own. They may be giving you thoughts, things to think about, asking you questions, but they're not going to be giving you answers. And so that's another easy way to define what holding space isn't, is it's not giving someone an answer. It's allowing them to find it on their own. And this is such a valuable skill that is underrepresented and not taught effectively or often enough, in my opinion, out in the real world. And that's why I think so many people resent things. I also know that through many parts of my childhood with my medical experiences, people were not holding space for me. And not only were they not holding space for me, but they taught me inadvertently that I didn't know what was best for my body. Someone else should know what's better than I do. And I've had to unlearn those lessons, which have been very difficult over the years, because I do know what's best, but I have to be able to hear it and be allowed to hear it and have the people around me trust that I can trust myself. And that is super hard when someone is struggling and in pain or having a hard time or some kind of challenge.
You've made me realize that I struggled a lot when I was a kid with stomach issues. And we couldn't figure out what the problem was. No one could figure out what the problem was. They wouldn't do certain tests because I didn't look like somebody who would have this problem. You know, polycystic ovary. 5% of women that have polycystic ovary are excessively hairy, overweight, and have a lot of pimples. 5% of women with that problem exhibit those signs, but they will only test for it if you're exhibiting those signs. So therefore, I never got tested until one doctor was like, hey, if they tested you for this. And I took changing from our family doctor, I went to a different doctor. And then the same thing with my stomach issues. I was like, you have IBS. If you have a syndrome of any sort, it means we don't really know what it is. And what they gave me made it worse. So you don't give people with gluten intolerance fiber, like Metamucil. It's seriously the worst possible thing that can be given to somebody. If you've got IBS, you shouldn't be adding sugar. Well, the Metamucil, the only way to eat the stuff was that it was full of sugar at the time. And I think it really helped me start to go, you know what? These people don't always know the answers. And this doesn't feel good for me. There is a reason why I don't like having spaghetti. My mum would cook the same sort of meals and there were some meals that I just didn't like. If we were having spaghetti, I was like, I don't want that. And we had a friend who came and stayed when I was a kid, and he would have gluten-free muffins, and no one liked gluten-free muffins back in the 80s. I liked them. That was an indication. And so I started holding space for what my body wanted. And I started actually holding space for me and going, hey, hold on a minute. That doesn't actually compute. That's not working. I had a doctor one time wouldn't listen to me. I was tired. And she was like, well, it's not this and it's not this. Maybe you should just stop drinking so much. And I was like, but I don't drink. Well, yeah, you don't really notice if every time you go for a bike ride, you have 2 or 3 beers after a bike ride and you ride every day. So you're probably just not noticing how many beers in a week you're drinking. Well, I don't drink beer and I don't have a drink after I go biking. So I'm like, what you're saying is not real. And then she was like, and you got to stop eating so much sugar and cookies and chocolates and those sorts of things. And I was like, the only thing that I have is dark chocolate and I don't have candy and I'm gluten intolerant, so I don't eat cookies. So that also doesn't compute. And the doctor wasn't listening to me. So I actually went home and I did the exact opposite of what she said. I went and got some really bad food. It was still gluten-free. I went and got myself a bottle of margarita mix and a bottle of tequila. And I went out and I spent the next 2 days, and I didn't get drunk, but I had some drinks and I ate some pizza. And I realized that I had major stress going on and I just needed to relax because I have so many rules and I'm so regimented that I didn't fit into the model that person used. She wasn't wrong. She wasn't holding space for me. So I had to hold space for me. And I think the last thing I want to say to this is coming back to that whole coaching experience that I had. And again, I'm working this out in these conversations, is that I'm not holding space for the experience that I'm having. So when I'm talking to someone, I feel like I need to be defensive because I'm being defensive towards myself. I'm being judgmental of where I am right now. I'm judging that I haven't done X, Y, Z. And so if I'm judging that about myself, I'm going to have that mirror held up, whether I'm talking to my husband, whether I'm talking to my friends, whether I'm talking to a coach. I'm going to have that held up, and it's like, okay, how is this triggering me? Why is this a problem? Well, if I actually stop and really think about it, I haven't been holding space for the experience that I've had since July 2019 and all of the things. But if I actually, when I started defending myself and I got off the call and I was like, hey, hold on a minute. I feel like I need to give context because I am defending myself because I haven't been giving respect to all of the things that are actually going on. And if I stop and I look and I go, you know what, I have improved in that area and I have improved in that area. And this is what I'm doing to try and work through this. Maybe I don't actually need coaching around this. What do I need coaching around? Because I am working on this. And it's the fact I'm not giving myself credit for it. And I'm in the guilt and I'm in the shame and I'm having this judgment, and that is just going to get reflected back to you. And so if you can find someone like the amazing Ginny right here who can hold space for me, then I'm able to come through the other side and be like, oh, okay, it wasn't their fault. It wasn't my fault. It's just there's a mirroring going on, and you'll see it in your partner over and over and over again. If you are not in a good space yourself, you will be arguing with your partner more. And again, sort of quoting Abraham, they're like, you don't even really want to tell someone this, but if you're in a bad relationship, you can be thinking in your head, thank you. You are preparing me because I am figuring out all the things that I don't want in my next relationship.
Yeah. I think that is one of the easiest ways to tell the difference between holding space and not holding space, is that holding space asks questions, open-ended, thoughtful questions, and someone who is not holding space is going to tell you what to do. What you usually should be doing is that S word. And when you can do that for yourself, that's huge. We've been conditioned to believe that other people have answers for us. We both just gave numerous situations where clearly the people that were supposed to have wisdom for us were not holding space for us as we were. And it happens continually in our world all over the place. I've heard of people ending up hospitalized because doctors weren't actually holding space for the patient that was in front of them.
100%. Ian got his right knee, I believe. So his right leg is his strong leg. And he had to get his ACL repaired. And I actually got kicked out of the surgeon's office because I was advocating and trying to tell the guy, hey, look, you are taking away this guy's good leg. This isn't going to be possible. And he didn't hold space for the experience that Ian was going to have. He didn't tell me that there is a free service where I could actually get someone to come and cook for Ian and do meals and look after him. And I was the caregiver. I was trying to run a business. I actually went away for a week, and Ian couldn't even get himself from the couch to the sink to get himself a glass of water. But this guy was looking at the professional snowboarder and not looking at the standing paraplegic. And years later, he actually apologized. But I was trying to convey this to him, and he was not able to hold space for the reality of the situation. And it was fascinating.
I don't like that we have more examples of not holding space versus holding space. But again, this is the reality of our culture and our society. And in so many ways, we have had the power of choice taken away from us. And we've been told that there's an authority that knows better than we do. And one of the first ways we can start taking that power back is to start believing that we can hold space for ourselves and that we can answer our own questions, and then advocating when someone is not holding space for us. Simply saying, look, that's not an appropriate way to work with me. That's not an appropriate way to coach me. That's not an appropriate way to advise me. And going out and finding someone else. I'm sorry, I'm not going to keep you as a doctor because you're not listening to me as a patient. Being your own advocate is hard, but it's so important, because if you can't hold space for yourself as your own advocate, then no one else will have the ability to hold space for you either. This is a big topic. It's a lot. It's kind of heavy. I'm positive that I can go out on a limb and say that there's no one listening that has not had a situation where they have been in similar to ours, where someone didn't hold space for them in an appropriate way. We just have to keep doing better. We have to keep doing better for ourselves. We have to keep doing better for each other. And go back to your pets. Connect with your pets. Connect with animals, because they're always going to be there in that way for you. That's why I think it's so popular to have animals, because they are that way for us. And they don't judge. They don't care what you had for dinner or whether you did or didn't exercise. I mean, the dog might appreciate some exercise, but They're definitely not going to judge you for it. And that's why it's so comforting. So how can we take that experience and start translating it to the people in our lives that we're close to, and even the other people that are out in the world? How quick are we to get angry at someone who cuts us off in traffic? What if we could hold space for that person, that they might be having a really bad day? They might have gotten fired. They might be having terrible problems with their partner. Their child might be in trouble or struggling. You never know what the person around you is going through. And if we can hold space for their experience to be what it's going to be without judgment of their actions, that would be huge. The world would be dramatically different.
Yeah, so I think to wrap up, what you just said is we want to advocate for ourselves. We need to advocate for other people. And we need to allow for things to happen and for experiences to happen, and then figure out a way that we can move through. And when we are in that space, that, as you say, the world is a better place. When we just always assume positive intent, and when we actually just acknowledge that we have absolutely no idea what people are going through. The whole Karen, and I think now Ken thing, I'm not sure what it is, but it actually really, really upset me, because I was like, yeah, these people are misbehaving badly, but to actually label them with a person's name, there's some really nice Karens out there. Like, I don't think that that's helpful in our society. I don't think that's how we move forward and hold space, and not to advocate for people behaving entitled and doing things that are not acceptable, but maybe giving them a little bit of room to do better. And I'm going to finish up what I'm going to say with just an example. A friend of mine said that he got reamed out because somebody was trying to get somebody's attention, and he was like, "Hey, sweetheart," it's in his realm of like how he's trying to get this lady's, and instead of her being like, "Oh, thank you, I left my sunglasses behind," she started yelling at him for calling her sweetheart. Now, maybe calling her sweetheart wasn't acceptable, but instead of being like, "Oh, hey, thank you," getting the sunglasses and being like, "You know what, I really didn't appreciate being called sweetheart. What would have been a better way to communicate with me would have been XYZ." And
I mean, sweetheart's better than hey you, so.
Well, and you know what he ended up after the conversation being like, what I should have called her was, we all live in our cultures and our environments and what we've been growing up with, and it is better to assume positive intent, give someone space, and then educate them than do any other thing. That's all I have to say on that. What about you?
Yeah, I think just cut the judgment. Quit judging actions. I mean, why do you even need to respond in those ways? I'm with you. The whole Karen thing has never sat well with me. The behavior isn't acceptable, but the idea of calling people a name that doesn't mean anything. It's a name. It's neutral. It doesn't have good or bad attached to it. Now we've assigned a meaning to it, and that does not help bridge the gap. It doesn't help foster connection, and it doesn't create community. And holding space is about allowing people to have their own experience. And it's about being able to be present with someone when they're struggling without judging their struggle. And if we can just cut the judgment, that's probably a whole nother episode. Right there. That's probably like several episodes right there. But again, this comes from a place of pain. We care for someone and we don't want them to hurt, and their experience looks like it would be hurtful to us, so we want to make it better. And that's taking too much responsibility for someone else. You just can't do that.
And I mean, really, not judging. We are judging human beings. We are meaning-making machines. Again, you're going to step off the curb more often than not. And I think it's more about being aware of your judgments than expecting yourself. I come back to that part of the book that we were reading about how Oponopono, and where the guru talks about how the day that he gets through an entire day without judging anything, he gets to have the ice cream sundae that's so big and so covered in sugar that it will make him sick. And he's like, and I haven't gotten that sundae yet.
Yeah. So, very true.
It's not about judging yourself for not being able to not judge other people. It's really just holding awareness and holding that space. And I think that will allow us to spend less times in the weeds, more time present with what's going on around us, and make us nicer to be around. And probably the mirrors that are coming back from the rest of the world a little bit less harsh.
Yeah. So now we've come full circle. Now that we're holding space for not judging things.
We're probably done. So I am Natasha Lockey. I am a performance, life, and mountain bike coach. I am here for you if you just want to have more fun. Whether you're on your bike, in your life, maybe there's a big decision that you've been working on, or maybe you just actually love where you're at, but you can't figure out why you're not as happy as you want to be. You love mountain biking, but it isn't as fun as you want to do it. You love your career, your job, whatever it is you're doing, but you're just not actually enjoying it the way that you feel like you can and what's possible for you. So I'm here to hold space for that and make your dreams a reality. You can find me at Betty Gohard on Instagram. You can also find me at Natasha Lockey on Facebook and LinkedIn. And I do have an online course that is coming up if you're a mountain biker and you are wanting to master your confidence, which means finding the skills to perform better both on your bike and in your mindset. So reach out. We'll put a link in the show notes for that if you're looking to register. And our show, Riding in the Weeds, has its own personality too. Ridingintheweeds.com is our website. Our Instagram handle. Of course, we have a Facebook page as well. So look us up. Before I let Ginny go, I'm just going to say, please give us a like, a subscribe, and if you're on Apple, please leave a review and share this show because it really does help. All right, Ginny, who are you? What do you do awesome in the world?
Yeah, so I'm Ginny Branden. I'm an animal communicator and energy healer for animals and their people too. If you are having challenges with your pets, with your relationship, with emotional issues, you've got multiple pets in the household, or if you've also got big life events that are happening that are going to impact both you and your pet, then I can support you and hold space for you all to all find a better way of being together. You can find me on the web at soulpetconnections.com. and on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube under the same handle. So thank you so much for joining us today on this show. We really appreciate having you with us, and we want to send you all so much love and hold space for your highest and greatest good. So again, like, comment, and share. We really appreciate it. It helps a lot. We hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Thanks, guys.